Hello, welcome to Get Your Mind On. I'm Lori Stohs. So it's another day in the office. You show up and go throughout your day, and all of a sudden it happens. Another time where you have a performer, a producer that you've been working with, and all of a sudden that moment of, oh, I thought they were getting it, happens again. So you go throughout your day and of course spend time with them, and you're frustrated through the whole process. And you step back and think about, should I make a change? Many times we have individuals that we have really believed in and hired and worked with, and over time, then we realize that maybe they're not a right fit. Maybe it's not working. We're not getting that consistent performance that we would love to have with that individual. So what do? We really have to step back and think about it. Over time, if that continues more and more and more, obviously we're going to get more frustrated. And figuring if we're probably frustrated, there's probably lots of other people who are frustrated too. And we have to really take some action. So when you really think about what are those steps that we need to do, we need to really think about that whole circle, that talent, skills, knowledge, experience, and fit circle that you've seen in the past. What is the issue? Step back and evaluate, is this a skill issue? Is there something I need to teach them? 2, is it a knowledge issue? Do they need to know something they don't know? 3, do they just not have the experience? Or 4, is it talent? So many times the first 3 are pretty easy to solve, and probably by the time we've gotten to this point, we've really covered those 3. The thing that keeps showing up is that talent piece, the things that we can't change. We can't change when someone doesn't get the concept. We can't change when someone doesn't get they just can't see the analytical piece. We can't change when they just can't tend to build relationships like we need them to be. Those are things that are very, very hard to change. And so we really have to step back and say, what is that? There's really 2 pieces in addition to that circle when we think about that talent piece. Are we dealing with a performance issue, like they're not getting their job done, the performance is not consistent, or is it an attitude issue? Do they show up with a poor attitude every day? Obviously the attitude is something that is very hard to switch as well, but we do need to give people feedback on that. So really stepping back and saying, which is it? And when we think about that, we really have to look at the talent and say, have I tried to give them feedback? Have I tried to train them or educate them to get to that better performance? So like I said, by this time, it's probably a talent issue or a fit issue that they're just not a good person for the role. So what do we do next? I call this dismissing with dignity. If we decide that this person is not a fit or it's not working and we've given them plenty of time, first, we really have to make sure we've done a few things. And I want to point out, there's lots of HR rules and guidelines, and I'm not going to go through those today. You have to deal with your legal counsel on those in terms of the contracts and making sure you do what's right from a protection perspective. I'm really just going to talk about how do you treat that person, okay? And we really have to make sure as a manager first, we sit down and we've made sure we've had that conversation with them about their performance. We've been very clear. Now, sometimes we think we're really clear, but they still have no idea. So that conversation has to get tough. We've got to have a little tough love. I really feel that most people don't have intentions to come to work and not do a good job. If they could do it, they would do it. And it's really hard for people. If they're not getting it, they're putting in their all, but it just doesn't come natural to them. So many times as a manager, it's our job and our responsibility to help them move along, because they don't know it at the time and they don't want to be a failure, but maybe it's just not the right thing. So many people don't raise their hand and say, hey, this isn't for me. We really have to help them along. So first, having that tough conversation with them and sitting down and putting a plan together to say, this is the behavior that needs to change by this date, and making that very clear in writing, understood by both people. Now, when we say it, the best thing for them to do is before you have them leave the room, have them repeat what they understood. That way that you're on the same page, that it's a pretty critical period of time for them. And if behavior doesn't change, then we're going to take some action. So the other thing on that part is I always do ask people when I see sometimes the performance plans that they put people on, I ask the first question, are you intending to keep this person or not? Because some of those plans are written so intensely that this person will never succeed. So I think you have to know in your mind, if you're done, you're probably done, okay? And so work with your HR team to say, what could those next steps be which could possibly be these few things. One is you've come to agreement that this isn't going to work, okay? Letting them spend 90 days in the environment isn't a good thing. So maybe having the conversation to say this isn't going to work and we need to take some action. So how do we do that with dignity and treat them as a human? Is one, have the conversation, help them, give them guidance with their resume or with a coaching service to help them really think about what could they do differently. Second is sometimes we could just say this isn't going to work, and based off the environment or their role, it might be best to let them go, but go ahead and pay them, for the next 60 days. And third, really just have that conversation to say, you know what, I don't see much changing and we're going to give you 60 days to go ahead and look for a job. Everything will stay quiet. It's just between us and we know that we'll be transitioning you out of this role. So really it's thinking about how do you treat that person with dignity? How do you have conversations, value them for who they are, but know that it just isn't going to work for this role, in this environment at this time. And also there may be other opportunities in that company that you could pass them off to as well, that it just might be that we need to study and analyze who they are in terms of their talent and how somebody else could possibly use that and transfer those talents. So there's lots of options to think through, but really it's helping them know you care and helping them know that being very clear about this conversation that you're having with them. So for positive charge this week, I want you to first think about how difficult it is for you to have these conversations and why. 2, is there someone you need to have a conversation with? If so, have that conversation with them and really think through the steps that we discussed on how you can make change accordingly. Managing performance is a very difficult thing as a manager. It's kind of like parenting, right? It's difficult to give feedback, but really it's all about developing people and helping them grow. Again, many times people would do it if they just knew how. So it's our responsibility to be open, be honest, and really treat them as a human being and helping them grow and progress even through tough times. Thank you for joining us today, and remember to get your mind on.